I can see through the years how the diversity in our dance has been growing.
Any manifestation, any art, politics, there's always a conservative force and a progressive force. I think we have the tendency of always thinking that before was better and now we are losing our ways.
I was there dancing, but suffering so much, struggling, losing connection with myself. And I keep pushing without those tools. I was facing perfectionism. I was facing lots of fear. Fear to do mistakes, fear to not be accepted, fear to not receive validation.
Over the years, I came to realize more and more that the artist's mind doesn't only think objectively. The artist's mind, I think, more thinks objectively.
When you see someone do something different, give yourself 5 seconds to breathe before you react to that. Because sometimes the first reaction is just the impulse of resistance of something that is new for you.
How many times a Zouk teacher has told you to synchronize your breathing with a certain movement, or to feel your grounding on the floor, to breathe into your belly, to ground yourself a little bit more. You think this is Brazilian Zouk technique? I'm sorry to say, I don't think it is. Why is there so much us versus them in the dance world lately? Whether it's choosing a quiet retreat over a loud party, or new moves over the traditional ones, why do we feel the need to pick a side? Is it possible that the thing you're resisting is actually exactly what your dance needs? Well, let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In this episode, Gui Prada, Paloma Alves, and I talk about judgment and the gaps in our community. We chat about why it's so easy to point fingers at different ways of dancing, the fear of doing it wrong, and how to be kinder to each other when we don't agree. Let's bring and keep our community together, even when we're all doing things a little bit different. So, let's go! Hello everyone. My name is Alisson Sanji, and let's welcome back our beautiful co-host, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody. Back to back.
And if you're watching us in our video format, I think you can already see that we have our beautiful Paloma Alves back to be back again with us.
I need to say I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, we're all back to be back.
So happy to be here again.
That's right, everybody. We are happy to have Paloma back with us once again, now that Gui and Paloma are in their world tour, which please make sure to check where they are if they are near you, and go and attend their classes and get your transformation by learning from these beautiful people. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the differences that exists between people in the community, between groups in the community, but it's kind of like in a broad way. It doesn't really just happen in the community. For example, to understand the context here, some people like to social dance early. Some people like to social dance late. Some people like to dance and train a lot of technique and very cool moves. Other people like to focus more on connection, on understanding body mechanics and how to flow energy between the partners. And some people, for example, when they're trying to improve their confidence, will have a little drink before the party. But other people will try to meditate, relax, and center themselves, right? We have all the different approaches to how we make our dance better. And today we're going to be talking about the lack of acceptance that there is in the community when there are different approaches from different groups, but only certain groups seem to receive the negativity or the denial. Like, well, this is not part of the dancing, or this is not something that we do in Brazilian Zouk. It kind of like ties together with the previous episodes that we've been doing, talking about what is and what is not. Look, before we started recording, we were discussing the topic like we always do. And I was mentioning, even in the progression of the dance, right? As the dance got more modern and got other influences from different styles, there were some people that were more stuck to the roots, and they were defending and saying all of these new things that you guys are doing are not part of the dance. And I'm saying dance because it doesn't only happen in Brazilian Zouk. You can see that between bachata Dominican, and you can see that between sensual bachata and tango and all of the styles. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And let's start with you, Paloma, our beautiful co-host and guest for today. What are the differences that you see in the community that brings this sort of division and disagreement that you think would be nice to bring to this episode today?
I got so many.
Let's go.
So many. Like, let's start maybe sometimes with nostalgia. I hear people say like, oh, I prefer one was like this many years ago, was just about dancing and connection. But today it's so much more about performance and Jack and Jill. And when I look back, was always there, the element of performance and the element of connection. It really depends for me of your perspective, the way you look at the reality in front of you. So sometimes I feel a little bit like naive because actually I see more positive than negative. I can see through the years how the diversity in our dance has been growing. Like we have so much more different types of events. For example, we have events that they highlight technique, Jack and Jill, and we have events nowadays as retreats, immersions that highlights techniques and tools for connection, for people have more body awareness and integration with themselves. So it's pretty much about where you choose to be, what feels more aligned with you. And then I see more complaints like, should not do that, or this is not this. And like, why we don't accept that exists different, that even that we like the same thing, we're probably going to explore the same thing in a different ways. And we have containers. We have different containers. So as you said before, has people that like to dance late night and has people nowadays that like to dance during the day. I was this person. The first social in the afternoon for me was very weird. Like, no, I don't like that. Has no atmosphere here. Like, what is the vibe, Until the moment that I'm like, you know what? Let me try. Let me fully try. Let me put aside my resistance to really check if I don't like that. I'm not saying that we are obligated to like the same things, but I'm using my example to say like, at some point I was like, wow, that's very cool. That's different. It's a different atmosphere. It's a different vibe. And I also enjoy that. So nowadays I like both. And I even say like, I start really to prefer more parties that are earlier and not so late because I'm changing my routine, And I'm not to say that the people that still like to dance until late night, they are wrong. Oh my gosh, they are doing something very bad for their health. And for me, that is the point. When we start to change, we want people sometimes change together with us instead of allow them to have their own path and their own pace.
Yeah, when we talk about this topic now, the tools that we use and the different ways people get ready, people prepare, people experience the dance, it comes back to mind something that I observe in my studies of human nature, of human being humans, is that everywhere there is a conservative force and there is like a progressive force. Any manifestation, any art, politics, we don't even need to talk about politics because it's all about politics, but there is always a conservative force and a progressive force. And I think all of us at some point, we switch back and forth between wanting to keep stuff the way it is and wanting to change stuff to a new thing. So sometimes when people are more in a conservative vibe and wanting to maintain things the way they are, they see the people who bring something new to change, and the first reaction is resistance. And the people who are bringing these things look at those who are trying to keep stuff and say, oh, you are outdated. You are staying behind. This is not what it is today. We need to keep going. And then at some point, the progressive ones get old, they want convenience, they settle into their ways, and then they become the new people who are trying to keep things as they are, forgetting sometimes that they were the spearheads of a change back when they started or something like that. And we just watched them very recently, the old video about wear sunscreen. I don't know if you guys remember this one, wear sunscreen, was 2004 or 7, very old. And one of the moments of the speech, the guy says, things will get expensive and politicians will do their thing. Politicians will be politicians. But then when we get old, we're always going to say that things were cheaper and the politicians were more honest or something like that. So I think we have the tendency of always thinking that before was better and now we are losing our ways. And there's a part of me that agrees with one point in what comes to Brazilian Zouk. Because I started teaching in 2017, 18, and I started teaching about embrace, about dancing close to your partner. And that was the hype at the moment. So it was very easy to go to a social and people were holding each other more. The songs were slower. I even remember one time that I went to a social and I asked the DJ, please, can you play some traditional music? The love of the gods. And then when the DJ said, yeah, okay, I'm going to play a traditional song. And then he played a remix from Kaká. That was his understanding of traditional music, And then I went around giving some DJs in the West, my old folders of traditional music because they didn't know. So they were playing different kind of music, which therefore creates a different kind of dance. And hearing and going to the socials where, because of the music that is being played most of the time, the nature of the dance changes naturally. I don't think that's normal. Our dance, Brazilian Zouk, became what it is because there was a change in the music that was being played in the socials. But in the end of the day, I think it's good for us to observe in each moment of our journey, where are we right now? Are we in the conservative train or are we in the progressive train, right? Are we in this moment of our journey wanting to keep things a certain way? Or are we wanting to take it to a different place, take it to, to a different level of understanding or awareness? And sometimes this taking to a different place can bring back something or add something to it, I think. So for my own observations of my own experience of this dance, both as a teacher, as a facilitator, as an organizer, as a community leader, and as a hardcore social dancer, I try to be aware of my own biases and understanding, do I want to keep something or do I want to change something? And most of the time I feel inclined to change something because I think there is something that we can improve every time. And that doesn't mean that we are moving away from what the dance is, that we are stripping away the characteristics of what makes Brazilian Zouk in terms of dance, the art itself, or how we practice it, like the social dancing and the teaching of it.
Let's talk about some specifics here. What elements, techniques, or practices that you would like to see or to bring into the dance and would hope that people would be more accepting?
Like so many. For example, I know that sometimes we have a short time, 1 hour, for example, in a course, or 1 hour in a regular class. And that, for me as a teacher, is still a challenge to give ideas. Yeah, I just said yesterday for another teacher that I feel comfortable sometimes in the container that I teach in immersions or retreats, that I feel that I can go deeper with the students in those elements. Like I can start the class giving exercise for body awareness. I can start a class with exercise for breathing or somatic dynamics that for me help us to be out of their mind and be more in the body. So, and then people are already feel more, let's say, comfortable with themselves, not so much in their heads, like, I'm doing this right, I'm enough, like, I will be able, I will be capable, you know? So I love those tools because it helps in things that as a dancer, I struggled so much and for so many years. Like I was there dancing, training, but suffering so much inside of my head, struggling, feel blocked, losing my creativity, losing connection with myself, with others. And I keep pushing without those tools. So those tools appear into my life more since pandemic. And I was out of the scene of dance because I was studying by myself about some things. And while I started to do those, I started to meet people that were doing things similar. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But and then when I'm go dance with everyone or like in a different containers, I see people still struggling with that. So for me, as a part of this community, if I'm always asking myself, like, how can I give more ideas? How can I promote more those things? And as you said before, it feels a little bit of the resistance. Oh, this is not Zouk. I prefer to keep learning this or to keep learning that. For me, it's totally okay. Like, it's part of your integrity if you are doing exactly what makes sense for you at this moment, you know? But in my dreams, like, we will find more ways to bring more those elements. I don't know, it starts a congress, for example, instead of a class, maybe people sit, they talk about some topics, or maybe they have a consentment class, or maybe they have a full somatic dynamic for them arrive at this space, or then feel already like welcome, that they look to each other and say like, oh, heck, thank you so much for being here. It's because you are here that we are able to lead this experience. Oh, it's so many, you know, like, and when I'm saying those things, I'm not saying that the other containers are doing something wrong. You know, that's just me believing that, as Gui said, things will keep changing. We have this rule in our dimension here that is impermanent, exists. Every day we change a little bit. So I don't believe we can hold things as they are. Sometimes it is part of our nature to maintain things in the way we know. So the unknown can be very scary. And I respect that. I respect each person that say, oh, but I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. But after the fear, what we can see is better to stay here, stopped, freeze, and one face just because of fear, or with love and kindness, we can find a ways to grow together, to accept. Because what I see is each person can bring a different idea, and let's check. But sometimes we lose so much time just trying to be right. No, that's best. No, this is the way. We came here to be different. And we have in common the love for Zouk. But we're going to experience this in a different way. Even in a room, each person we're going to receive the same technique is slightly different or in a huge different way. So I felt a huge impact on my dance, on my mindset when I started to apply somatic dynamics, meditation, and because it's part of my source of motivation as a teacher to give what makes difference in my journey, that I wanted to bring more of those tools to the students. I wanted to give some help about things that I didn't receive in my journey for make them feel more safe and confident. And the moment they are like, and not just, oh, I need to learn all of those movements for I can be accepted. I need to dance in a certain way for I can belong. No, I really want to make them believe that they belong now. And our dance has so much diversity, and that's the beauty of Zouk in many aspects. Music, as you guys said, so many different types of music, and so many different ways nowadays, so many techniques and pedagogy. We have been growing so much. If you put the teachers side by side, all of them, we're gonna explore the same movements in a different way. Our dance allowed us to have identity. We don't really need to do exactly the same thing. So yeah, so many impacts from those things. And one of those was to realize that, yes, at the beginning in my dance journey, I went to my class and I was out of my mind. I was so hypnotized by my teacher, doing things that I wanted to reproduce and doing the same way. But more I was growing, more I was studying, become professional, I was so much more in my head. So much pressure, so much expectation. I was facing perfectionism. I was facing lots of fear. Fear to do mistake, fear to not be accepted, fear to not receive validation, So, and then when I started to do somatic dynamics, and I'm gonna give one example, one of them is to do a strong way of breathing, like Kali breath, that you breathe in, you put your thumb out, and you keep doing cycles of this breathing for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And you open your chest and you keep doing that. In the first class, 1 hour doing this in the different positions, I start to cry. And I'm like, why I'm crying? What I'm holding here inside of my body. So I sit with that and many insights comes. And I remember I was in Bali when I was doing this class. So I did this class maybe for 4 weeks in a row. And I remember that I went to the social and I was feeling so different. My body was feeling so much more released. I was less tense. I was feeling more present because, yes, even being a teacher, even being dancing for 18 years, when I embrace someone, sometimes I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? But slowly I was feeling that impact of this practice that I didn't understand what was doing with me, what was really the purpose. Later on, I started to study more about Kriya Yoga. So this practice comes from Kriya Yoga. I even did the course, the first model to teach. And I was like, oh, now I get it. So this type of dynamics, it's so far away from the understanding. It's so much more just feeling the body, move the body, breathe, and let whatever comes be welcome, whatever emotion, because our body has the capacity to register many emotions for us to keep going, to not deal with them. When we are dancing, we register emotions too. Sometimes we feel fear, joy, pleasure, discomfort, comfort. So I saw that outside of the dance, something that can improve my dance. And I believe, and I keep believing this so much more, that all the aspects in my personal life can affect my dance. The aspects in my dance can affect my personal life. We cannot separate those things. And that's my belief. And I was like, yes, we have amazing techniques. And if we bring more, it can be better. And that's my perception. That is from my own experience.
And this is not new, that I think it's something easy to forget. It's not new. Over the years, I came to realize more and more and more that the artist mind doesn't only think objectively. The artist mind, I think, more thinks subjectively, or doesn't think. There's a level of embodiment. There's a level of being guided by your senses, being guided by your instincts, being guided by something that you cannot put a word to it. And that guidance, brings you to creation. It's something that I think it needs to be awakened. It needs to be pulled out of your soul, because everybody is artists. Everybody has that potential. The main problem, the main issue in our society is that we are a lot in our heads. There is this very famous TED talk that the guy says humorously that our body is just something that takes our heads from one meeting to the other. And we don't get to connect with our bodies. So partner dancing, Brazilian Zouk, is one way to connect with our bodies by understanding this language where we learn that if we do this, it's called lateral. If we do that, it's called viradinho. And we can go a whole journey doing lateral, viradinha, bônus, simple turn, toalha, balão apagado, without feeling those movements in our bodies beyond the objectiveness of a good and clear execution. So in my training days in Rio, we had ballet, we had jazz, we had contact improv, we had stretching, we had theater from time to time, and we had crazy shit that there isn't a name for it. You know, the teacher would just go, lower the lights, go, do stuff. And in no point, they explain how that relates to the dance. This thing here, you can use in your dance like this. In no point there was such an explanation. Because the whole idea was to work the artist, work the body, deepen embodiment, working our touch. So we were left with our own devices to figure out how that applies to dance, and not even figuring out. It's a silent process of developing awareness that by default helps with your dance. My main pet peeve these days as a teacher and as a speaker is something that we talked about in our episode that we called defensive teaching, right? Even here, when we're talking in the podcast, we do a little bit of defensive speaking because we say something and next thing we say, what do you say? Guys, I'm not saying da, 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 da. I don't mean da, 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 da. We need to explain what we are not saying so we can be understood in what we are saying, because we are scared of what people are going to understand that we are not saying. We do this a lot in our lives. We do this here.
It's all about the cancel culture, right?
So much. And then when we are teaching a class that has a Kali breath, when we are teaching a class that has rolling on each other, we're teaching a class that is for the first 10 minutes, we're just sitting and talking. There is this pull for us to explain, okay, in the dance, this is here. This is here in the dance. This thing that we just did is here and here in the dance. So then we can convince people that what we are doing is important. You know, and I think here I would like to invite everybody to see everything as something that can improve your dance, because it improves your awareness as a human being of your body. So yesterday we were watching a new show on Netflix, super cool, called The Philosopher's Kitchen. That is a docuseries that follows that Buddhist nun in Korea, who is very famous about temple cuisine. And she, at certain points, I get goosebumps, because she at certain points, she talks about using your hands to cook. And she talks about the importance of touching the food. And then she makes it super philosophical. Touching the food connects with nature, connects with the texture, connects with the temperature. You put your energy on the food. You know, all woo-woo talk, like all the hippie talk, a Buddhist nun, and then 3-star Michelin chefs people travel to see her doing her pickling technique, to see her doing her thing, because her food has something different about it, you know? And then when she speaks about it, you're like, man, she's a hippie. She's a hardcore hippie. No, but she's a Buddhist monk, you know? And when I'm watching anything about cooking, about dancing, about art in any shape or form, comedy, painting, writing, I can make an immediate association with my own art, with dance. This was something that was developed and an acceptance that came over time, that I don't need to know every single time how that will improve my dance. I know it will, because I'm aware of my breath a little bit more, that improves my dance. I'm aware of my touch a little bit more, that definitely improves my dance. You know, so any activity, my people, that you are invited to do, although you might not know exactly right away the reason for it and how that will improve your dance, that will improve your dance, because it is improving your soul, your body. to be more aware, to be more connected. This, if you're open in the experience, if you are receiving the experience with openness and not just saying, why are we doing this? Because I think that's the issue that we have sometimes with the disagreements. That people see an event or a class that doesn't have dancing all the time, where people are not doing the configurations of Brazilian Zouk, but they are doing something else. This is not the dance. This is not for the Brazilian Zouk environment, and it is, because in the end, it embraces the concept of multidisciplines, the multidisciplinary student. We are all multidisciplinary people. We all learn geography, math, history. We all learn all the disciplines. At some point, we choose one and we went to university. For those of us who went to university, and we dive deep. And then after years of uni and years working, no, that's not what I want. And move and change to the next thing. So yeah, we are multidisciplinary creatures. Brazilian Zouk is a multidisciplinary dance. It has lambada, it has bolero, it has samba, it has Zouk, it has the whole thing.
Fusion.
It's a fusion. So the multidisciplines, they not only involve disciplines of movement, but they can also involve disciplines of breathing, disciplines of attunement that are also related to the body, but they can be really far from what we understand as a Brazilian partner dance. And that's okay if everything is done with awareness, with consent, with knowing what we are doing and knowing what we are going for. Yeah, because if I play devil's advocate to the thing that I'm saying, I would say that people sometimes go for the event expecting something and then they get something else. So that's on us. That didn't get you, guys. You're going to experience different things here. Yeah, there's different things. You might not see right away the reason why. You might not see why we're doing these things. So are you game? Are you up for it? It can be soft, it can be intense. So it's like it's up to us to provide the clarity in what people are coming to experience. Yeah. But in the end of the day, I think embracing the multidisciplines without necessarily knowing how that's going to help immediately our dance can be extremely beneficial for us, for the individual that dances, for the community. Yeah. Because I think there'll be more curiosity, there'll be more acceptance, and we will enjoy this dance differently because there is a big chance that we might connect with not only the movement, but the quality of the movements, the texture of the movements, the feeling of the movements. Then you're going to find out that your favorite movement is bonus because how it makes you feel as you turn. Or that your favorite movement is balão apagado because when your head is back and your chest is open, like, oh my God, I'm receiving the gifts of the gods, So that you start to find your preferences in terms of movement because how they make you feel while you do it, and that is somatic. That's it. I'm done.
I think it's all about perspective, right? I remember reading a book that really, really changed me because it was talking about how to learn things. And interestingly enough, one thing that the book kept telling me or telling the reader to do is to try not to learn everything in the book. So it was very, very confusing because I've always had this idea that if I'm not learning everything, I have to go back and I cannot go forward until I've learned that one thing before. Like everything has to be checked. All the T's have to be crossed. All the I's have to be dotted. I cannot miss one thing. That was how I was learning before that book. And that book pretty much was always saying that you're going to learn what you're ready to learn in this moment. Don't try to read each page 10 times. Just keep reading, keep moving, keep going because you're going to absorb different things at different times. In 2 months or maybe next week, come back and read the book again or come back and read the chapter again. Every time you read the book or every time you read the chapter, you're going to learn something different because that's what your body and your mind is ready to learn in that moment. So that to me connects a lot with how we deal with learning in every aspect of life, but especially in dance. when we say that this is not something that I'm learning anything from. So I go to a class and I'm like, no, these teachers, they were doing this weird thing and I didn't learn anything from it. To me, that's the fault of the student, not the fault of the teacher. Because the teacher had a full banquet of food, a full table of food there, offering a little bit of everything, the whole class. But the person looked at the table and said, there's nothing here for me. It wasn't that the teacher didn't have anything to offer, but they didn't even give the teacher the chance. Because to me, when you go to a class and you're open, you're really open, you're going to try a little bit of everything. But you may be in the class and not even try. So just attending the class to me is not enough. Sometimes it may be a little uncomfortable because it's the first time you're experiencing it. And I think a little bit of discomfort is okay. If it gets a little too heavy or start shifting things in you in a way that is not pleasant, maybe take a step to the side and talk to somebody or something like that. But I think that when I don't learn something in the class, I question what way was I denying the information? Or what is something that I need to improve to be able to learn that information? Because I am sure there's a lot of value there. I just cannot understand and I cannot absorb that right now. For example, these kind of things that you guys are talking about. If you talk to me 10, 15 years ago, I'll just go okay, whatever, next. Because I wasn't even interested in being open to it. But you've also experienced, as time moved on, you started seeing how things are connected in ways that it's always been there. We just didn't allow ourselves to go okay, let me dive deep into it. Guys, we're dancers here. How many times a Zouk teacher has told you to synchronize your breathing with a certain movement, or to feel your grounding on the floor, to breathe into your belly to ground yourself a little bit more? You think this is Brazilian Zouk technique? I'm sorry to say, I don't think it is. I think it's some technique that we learned from other practices that we're hey, this is very useful for what we do. But are we labeling this as some somatic techniques or some woo-woo techniques? No, we're just saying this is Zouk technique. But it became Zouk technique, in my opinion, or it became part of the dance over time. But really, it comes from things way before this dance was born. So that's how I try to look at how I learn things. Be open to everything. Be open to experience whatever is there and trust that the facilitator has a point that may not be clear to you today, and maybe it's going to click in the future. But you can also be a little bit proactive in that approach of going okay, how did I not open myself? And so then you can do better next time instead of just, not worrying about it until it comes to you.
I would like to add what you said about the class. It's for life, and it's for life inside of the community. When you see someone do something different, when you see someone expressing a different opinion, give yourself 5 seconds to breathe before you react to that. Because sometimes the first reaction is just the impulse of resistance of something that is new for you. Of course, you always can trust your intuition, your inside guidance to say this is for me, this is not. Yes, totally. But before you decide it, give yourself 5-10 seconds to just contemplate, observe, and check with yourself. This makes sense. Maybe not for now, maybe in the future. Give yourself time and also give a space for others to do things that is different than what you like, than what is common for you, because by giving a space for others to do different things, you can have different aspects around you instead of avoiding, instead of like point the finger. I believe when we open ourselves, not just for new techniques, we start to be open to have more acceptance. And this, for me, helps the community to be more a healthy container for everyone feel welcome. That's the thing that I want to say to listeners.
Yeah, because at some point we all congregate in the same place. Some people start the dance in a regular class container, coming to their level ones, their basic ones. Some people start the dance. I have had several experiences in which the weekender, there were a couple of people who that was their very first Zouk experience, Brazilian Zouk experience was during the weekender boot camps. And we also have experienced people starting their journey in the dance in a retreat. So many times, there was one case, the guy was at the airport, about to board to Bali, and somehow he found the retreat, signed up at the airport, and got to no idea what was going on. And then the same person realized, oh my God, this is a whole thing. And then hired the local teacher for private lessons. So we had the class happening downstairs, and then in the breaks, he was upstairs, private lessons, catching up. And this happened a couple times. At some points, though, we all congregate in the same space. So I think every avenue, every pathway into the dance, every pipeline we have into the dance is beneficial for the growth of the dance, because at some point, these people will come together somewhere. I have seen people that started the experience of dancing in retreats and then move into the festivals, and then there they are in Griggle season in Brazil, going really crazy in the training. And then I have seen people that started over here and then moved to the retreats. So there is like this back and forth flow of people and the congregation that happens time to time. Just realizing that, man, all the channels are open and people are going through all of them. And our exercise of understanding, of looking at it, is really hard not to criticize. Our bias, they are really strong. And even if we try not to criticize, sometimes we do criticize. I criticize from time to time certain aspects, and then coming to realization. Then Alison, like you were saying, 15 years ago, be like, okay, pass next. Readiness for it. It was not there yet. And then realizing sometimes that in my own bias, there is just my preferences being expressed. Things that I like right now, things that I don't like right now. And it's not a problem of the thing. It's just my resonance with the thing is lower. And allowing myself, when there is space for it, to give a chance to that thing, to see maybe we can resonate together. And I have had good experiences in this way. Got to the place, it resonated, it was amazing. And got experience in which got to the place, yeah, really doesn't. But I was there. I experienced that, felt in my skin. In other situations too, realizing I didn't like it initially. But maybe what happens if I go again? Because at that point, this was happening, that was happening. So there are other circumstances that was not only the event or the workshop or the practices that were keeping us away. I remember there was a practice in Bali. They call it the gibberish meditation, where people walk around just gibberishing. And Paloma and I, we set out. We were like, no. I think for now, this is not now. This is too much for me. But as I was sitting out of the practice, I was thinking, why am I out? What is this discomfort that I'm feeling? And analyzing the discomfort instead of, oh, this is a silly practice. Why are we doing this? So I feel at least satisfied with the fact that I didn't judge the practice. I just judged myself. Like, why I'm sitting out where everybody else is in there? So it's just invitations that I think Paloma said, man, saw the thing that you don't agree, that you don't like, that you don't think is the thing. Just give it a couple seconds. Just breathe in, breathe out, and see, maybe some people are finding the dance over there. Maybe some people are really enjoying their experience over there. The dance is still there. I think the dance is still preserved. It's more the manifestation of it that changes from time to time. And I really think we are in a position of privilege in being able to experience all these different manifestations. We were at Brazuki with Addison, is a festival, a congress. Then we went to a weekend in a smaller scene. Then we are in a weekend in a big scene. Our class 2 days ago, yesterday, I don't know. So many people. And then we are moving into another festival that has intensives. And then we are going to other weekenders. And then we are moving to a residency. So we are experiencing the dancing, all these different manifestations, and there is beauty in all of them. And I think sometimes we reject something just because we don't know. And the invitation is, how much space do I have to get to know? And if I don't have space to get to know, I want to sit in my own wonderings of why, trying really hard not to attack the thing that I don't have the space to get to know. And that's hard. It's really much easier said than done. But we leave here the invitation.
So something that you said reminds me something that I saw at Tony Robbins' immersion that we did online, that he says about seasons. And if I look back, I was in my summer at the beginning when I was like exciting and obsessed to learn how to do spins. Like I was fully obsessed with that.
Just 1 second, guys, real quick, man. The seasons of life that Tony Robbins says. So you have your winter, your spring, your summer, and your fall. And the seasons are aligned to your age. But in this case, the season can also be aligned to your journey in general.
Yeah, like I was, as I say, everything that I saw in my life can be an immersion about self-growth, can be a book I combine with my dance journey. So when I look back, I see that I was a different source of motivation, and during my dance journey, it changed. So my invitation is for you to sit with yourself and check what is aligned with me right now. I'm missing something. Where I can search for, instead of looking in front of you and say, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. Really check, because our community, it is spread in so many different elements, as Gui said, in so many ways of manifestation. So we have different types of songs, we have different types of teaching, different types of containers, different events, socials. We have a huge umbrella of elements. So sit with yourself and check, because you always have the answer of what you truly want at this moment, and what is maybe that too that's gonna help you to express more your art that lives inside of you. Search more inside instead of looking outside and judging the outside. That's my invitation.
That's so beautiful, guys. Well, thank you for this amazing episode. Another one with both of you. Always the best. And I hope that this has clarified to people what these practices can bring to their dance and hopefully to their life as well. The idea here is to open doors, not to divide groups. So if you liked it, please help us grow this community by liking, subscribing, following, sharing this with your friends. And we are excited to have Paloma back with us again, and we'll see you on the next episode. So thank you, everybody. Beijos, abraços, and ciao.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye-bye.